Attorney General Jeff Sessions repeatedly refused to answer questions from a Senate panel about his private conversations with President Trump.
But Sessions did confirm elements of the testimony from former FBI Director James Comey, who appeared before the same committee last week.
KCAL 9 political reporter Dave Bryan has highlights of Sessions' appearance on Capitol Hill that got testy at times, Dave.
It did, and you know, I was left with the feeling that Sessions had been holding this in for a while, and wow, this was his opportunity to cut loose. The Attorney General came out with both guns blazing at today's hearing, declaring he was not in collusion with the Russians and never had any conversations with them about the election. But it was what Jeff Sessions didn't say that fired up the Democrats.
These false attacks, the innuendos, the leaks, you can be sure will not intimidate me.
Back in the Senate, where he has a reputation of being the affable Jeff Sessions, the Attorney General had fire in his belly as he fought back against accusations that he may have played it fast and loose with Russian officials and the firing of the FBI director.
Mr. Comey said that there were matters with respect to the recusal that were problematic and he couldn't talk about them. What are they?
Why don't you tell me? There are none, Senator Wyden. There are none. I can tell you that for absolute certainty. This is a secret innuendo being leaked out there about me, and I don't appreciate it.
And on the issue of possible collusion with Russian hackers and election manipulation, Sessions was equally steamed up.
The suggestion that I participated in any collusion, that I was aware of any collusion with the Russian government to hurt this country, which I have served with honor for 35 years, or to undermine the integrity of our democratic process, is an appalling and detestable lie.
Under questioning from California Senator Dianne Feinstein, Attorney General Sessions told the Senate Intelligence Committee that former FBI Director James Comey was not fired because of the Russia investigation, but because of his poor job running the Bureau.
We had problems there. And it was my best judgment that a fresh start at the FBI was the appropriate thing to do.
But when Senator Feinstein asked him about whether he talked to the president directly about it, Sessions refused to answer.
So you'd had no verbal conversation with him about the firing of Mr. Comey?
I'm not able to discuss with you or confirm or deny the nature of private conversations that I may have had with the president on this subject or others.
That set off a firestorm among Democrats on the committee.
I believe the American people have had it with stonewalling. We are talking about an attack on our democratic institutions, and stonewalling of any kind is unacceptable. And General Sessions has acknowledged that there is no legal basis for this stonewalling.
Senator Wyden, I am not stonewalling. I am following the historic policies of the Department of Justice. You don't walk into any hearing or committee meeting and reveal confidential communications with the President of the United States.
California Senator Kamala Harris, a former prosecutor and state attorney general, joined the cross-examination of Sessions.
Somebody
Sir, I have just a few.
Will you let me qualify it? If I don't qualify it, you'll accuse me of lying. So I need to be correct as best I can.
I do want you to be honest.
And I'm not able to be rushed this fast. It makes me nervous.
Harris tried to pin Sessions down on exactly what policy he was citing to not answer questions.
The policy is based on the principle that the president...
Sir, I'm not asking about the principle. I'm asking when you would be asked these questions and you would rely on that policy. Did you not ask your staff to show you the policy that would be the basis for you refusing to answer the majority of questions that have been asked of you?
Should be allowed to answer the question.
But Republicans came to Sessions' rescue, portraying the entire hearing as a fantasy of cinematic proportions.
Have you ever, in any of these fantastical situations, heard of a plot line so ridiculous that a sitting United States senator and an ambassador of a foreign government colluded to pull off the greatest caper in the history of espionage?
Thank you for saying that, Senator Cotton. It's just like through the looking glass. I mean, what is this? I explained how, in good faith, I said I had not met with Russians.
After the hearing was over, some committee Democrats were still steaming, including New Mexico Senator Martin Heinrich, who told CNN it felt like Sessions was stonewalling.
This is not a backyard barbecue. You either answer the question under oath or you invoke executive privilege. I walked away from this being highly concerned that there now seems to be a concerted effort by the administration to obstruct this investigation.
Well, as you saw, Sessions told the committee he would not answer those questions about his conversations with the president because he was preserving the possibility the president could invoke executive privilege. That clearly didn't go over too well with the Democrats, as we saw, but the New York Times reports that issue is kind of a constitutional gray area and may not hold up to legal scrutiny if challenged in the courts. Jeff, Lena, back to you.
Yeah, Dave.